Hey, this is Michael from The Halo Effect, and you're watching rockflesh.com.
And welcome, it's 2025, Rockflesh, we're back on the wagon, and we are doing our first interview of the year, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked to be with Mikael from The Halo Effect. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, loads of stuff I want to chat about, so let's start about the band. For the uninitiated, it may seem like The Halo Effect have come from nowhere, but you've got a bit of pedigree, haven't you, as a band?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, and the thing is, we've known each other since we were teenagers, early teens even, like 14, 15 years. Of age when we kind of discovered metal together, like, and this kind of the suburbs of Gothenburg. Gothenburg's a very small city, you know, suburbs even smaller, and there was not much to do, and you found metal, you know. And we found it pretty much at the same time, so that became kind of like how we bonded and how we hung out. There was one tiny little venue where we all went, you know, and we all kind of met, and that's where I met Jesper for the first time, like standing in line to see a metal show, that kind of stuff. So, when we discussed like doing this, you know, a couple of years ago, like 4 years ago, whatever it was, we were like, but we could have started this band in '92, you know, or even earlier, you know. So it just felt weird that we kind of waited all this time to kind of do something together, you know. Obviously, Daniel and Peter played together in In Flames for many years, and Nicholas was in The Flames for a couple of years, and Jesper as well. So it's just, but for me, me and Nicholas, we started talking about like maybe doing something. You know, he's very restless when creatively, like he just wants to do something and play and release something, do something. So he asked me if I wanted to be part of whatever he had going. And I said, sure, you know, and at the time, like, we had just finished the Moment album with Tranquillity. I just, like, finished writing it and recording most of it, so I was kind of, like, in a very creative mood. I felt good. So I was like, yeah, let's see what he has. So he started sending me some songs that he was working on, and I demoed it, and he was kind of like, yeah, this sounds actually kind of cool. Okay, let's see. Who else should be in the band, like, if we're going to play? And then we just started kind of, like, talking. Then it would be kind of cool to talk to Peter, you know. And Daniel, and I was like, what, really? Do you think they would be up for it? It would be awesome, you know. And so that's how it happened. It was just out of kind of, old friends getting together. And I've been kind of sad that we don't get to see each other that often. Me and Peter are like almost neighbors, so we see each other all the time. But the other guys I don't really see. And back in the day, we toured so much all the time that we only met at airports and festivals and stuff. So it was kind of silly like that. So now we have a chance to kind of hang out and do something cool and fun together. So it's been amazing. Just it was cool to have something new to do during the pandemic. You know, because if it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't think we would have kind of completed a first album. You know, at least not me, because I didn't have time.
And that's one of my questions, because, you know, as you mentioned, you've also got Dark Tranquillity, and I'm sure most of our viewers recognise you from Dark Tranquillity. How do you balance it? Because I think you've just come off the European tour. I saw you in London a couple of months back and stuff, and you know, has it literally been you unpacked and then straight out again?
A little bit like that, actually. I was home now for 4 or 5 weeks, which was nice. But yeah, this year is going to be crazy. The hard part is to make sure that no one kind of gets. If it's just me having to work more, that's fine. But I don't want anyone to kind of to affect anyone else. At the time, you know. So yeah, I'm home for a week, and then we go to Asia with Tranquillity. We're doing China and Australia and all that. And then I'll be home for 2 days. Not even home. I go to Finland immediately, and we do 3-4 shows with Cemetery Skyline, my other band, and then it's another European tour with DT, and then it's summer, and then it's festival back to back all weekends, then 1 or 2 tours in the fall, and then it's Christmas again. So, yeah.
And then it must be almost trying to almost forget all the Tranquillity stuff and then remember the Halo Effect stuff, and and especially the sound is quite different because Dark Tranquillity started as part of the Melodeath movement, but you have changed in your sound, where this is very pure Melodeath.
Yeah, I know. No, it's not like I forget, but it's all for me. It's very different. Like lyrically, it's very different. Like the way that we construct songs and Halo Effect is very different from Dark Tranquillity. So for me, it's there's a big difference, and it's kind of liberating. When you write for Halo Effect, it's kind of like everything is new. There's no history or baggage, whereas DT you have to kind of consider the 35 years that came before it. It makes it much more difficult, but also more rewarding. Whereas this is just like, hey, let's see what works and kind of go with instinct and kind of use that experience that we kind of unmasked together. And
that's one of the things I was quite interested about, because again, picking a Dark Tranquillity set list must be a nightmare nowadays because there's so many stuff. Whereas this is quite easy. There's 2 albums.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's also liberating, knowing that it's fine. We can play every song we have, and it's an hour, 40 minutes set. So yeah, of course, set list for DT is horrible. But the set list you're doing tonight, and not giving away any spoilers, you're actually doing most from the first album. Is that just because you didn't really get to tour that above and beyond the Amon Amarth shows? Exactly. Or? This is the first kind of headlining tour we do. Yeah. So it was important to kind of like make sure that we play all the songs that people want to hear, but also try out some new stuff and some of the new songs from the album, and it's been really exciting, and I think it's a big step up in terms of like songwriting on the second album. So it feels fantastic to play these new songs. Like I've been dying to do it, because we finished the album a year and a half ago or something like that. So it's been it's just been frustrating to have to wait this long for it to come out.
And again, that was one of the things I wanted to ask, because it came out 2 weeks ago. Was that a choice? Was that planned around the tour? Or?
It was, it was, I wanted the kind of the DT album and the Halo album to come out as far away from each other as possible. So that meant some delays, for both bands. But of course, we planned this tour around kind of like the release of the album, so we could go out immediately. And that's part of the fun, when playing like new songs when you know that people have just gotten into them, and it always feels great. I love that.
And it is, as you said, I think for me it's a much deeper album. There's a lot more clean singing than the first album. There's quite a lot more. I don't know, it feels a bit more operatic or larger and stuff. I don't know. Well, did you try and push yourself, again when you were recording it?
Yeah, and I know that kind of Niklas had this idea like of what he wanted to do with it, kind of like expand it and make it larger, but also like it was funny because we recorded so many songs for the first album that we had a lot of leftovers material. So we figured like we already have almost half the album, before we started. So let's just write 5 or 6 or 7 songs, whatever it was. And that made it really easy and kind of like it took away some of the pressure. So we wrote those songs and finished it, and it sounded great. But then we were like, these new songs are way better than the old kind of discarded songs from the first. So we just ended up writing more, and so everything on the album is brand new and not some reused stuff. But I think my initial reaction when I heard kind of the songs like Niklas sent me, and I was kind of like, wow, this has a level of confidence that we maybe didn't have for the first album, because we were just trying things out and trying to figure out what to sound like and what to do. So this one had kind of we know exactly what we're doing now, and that feels great.
But the first album was a real success. It was #1 in Sweden. It was, I think, I read somewhere that it was probably the first debut metal album to ever go straight to #1 in Sweden. It was was that, for those who've been, and without sounding horrible, you've all been around the block quite. Was it like sort of going, wow, to actually get that success again?
It's always great to release albums, even though it's my 15th or 17th or something like that. It's exciting, and it was exciting to hold on to something and not tell anyone, for a while. So it was kind of we wrote the album without having like a band name. We didn't have a logo. We didn't have anything. We just wrote songs, you know. So we just held on to it, and we said like, okay, everything is ready. The album is completed. We had videos, everything. Then we release it, and you can only do that once, you know. And it's been more than 30 years since we did it last. So that was really exciting, and I think that caused a lot of like excitement, especially in Sweden. Like people were kind of clamoring to hear Jesper play music again, you know, and Niklas and Peter, and so it was just a lot of curiosity and kind of like, definitely excitement.
And that first album does sound like, you know, really old style In Flames, really old style, you know, Dark Tranquillity. As I said, you know, I'm a huge Melodeath, you know, fanboy and stuff, and it sounded like it used to sound, and there was something really quite exciting about that.
And I guess we realized kind of early on, as we were kind of trying to figure out what to sound like, that it's like, why we don't need to kind of reinvent something. We can just focus on the kind of our strengths, you know, as songwriters, and like what we know best, basically. And that became really kind of like just very joyful in a way, you know. You just write because you fucking love this genre, you know, and this way of doing it, and and that was the whole idea when we started. Like, it's just gonna be for fun, just because we like this, and we've learned a lot over the years, so we've become pretty good at it, and let's make the best out of it, you know. And more than anything, just chance for us to hang out and tour together and enjoy it.
So where, you know, as you said, you know, you've got a number of commitments for the rest of the year with Dark Tranquillity and your other things. You know, where next for Halo Effect? You know, sort of, as you said, this is meant to be a fun project. You know, is it still a case of just seeing what happens next, or is there a plan?
We try to plan, but there's going to be a lot of festivals in Europe overall, and then I think we are touring in the fall. Like we're gonna hopefully not do too long of tours, you know, just a few shows here and there, you know. So it's definitely a plan, and we already planned like for next spring as well. There's some cool stuff happening. So it's the schedule is just, you know, my calendar is filling up for years.
But it is, there is just something, I don't know the best way to describe it. It just sounds, it is quite simple, but it's wonderfully simple. It just feels, you know, it's again what I fell in love with when I heard, you know, Dark Tranquillity for the first time, when I heard At the Gates for the first time. It's got that real, you know, the thing beautiful about Melodeath is that, you know, it's Maiden and Judas Priest-esque, you know, riffs with that sort of death metal growl, and it just works.
I think, I mean, that's what I like about like working with Niklas and Jesper. Like they are, it's kind of like, it's so easy for them. I think they just have like a natural way of thinking about music. Like, it starts with, of course, with Judas Priest and Maiden and Saxon and all that stuff, and that's kind of like the foundation of everything. And then we try to make it, you know, fast and aggressive and all those things, you know, just to make it more interesting. But that's how, of course, how we started as well. Like, you know, new wave of British heavy metal was the starting point for everything for us, and then we discovered extreme metal somehow, you know, and then you try to kind of mix and match and kind of somehow make something out of those influences. And
I think that's why Melodeath has endured all those years, you know, because it does talk to, you know, exactly like myself, who, you know, was into Maiden but then discovered Obituary and discovered Carcass, but actually still loved the Maiden stuff. And it, you know, and I think that, and you just get generations refined again. That's why I just think it's got such longevity.
I think you're onto something there.
Brilliant. Well, it's been fantastic to speak to you. Really looking forward to the show tonight. I've got one final question, which is our slightly irreverent question that we ask at the end of all our interviews. So, and I think it'd be probably quite interesting to hear your view of it. If you were basically told that, right, you know, a Wacken, you know, Halo Effect can have a stage, and you can have a stage, and you could do whatever you want with that stage at Wacken, what would you do with it?
Oh man. Choose the bands, you mean?
Bands. Or you could decorate it. You could also decorate it.
No, but I mean, I love what they do at certain festivals where there is kind of like a genre per festival, like Hellfest, for instance. They do like, they have the more kind of extreme metal stage. They have like the death metal stage, the like psychedelic stage and stuff. So I would do like a psychedelic stage, like maybe a smaller one, but just for the bands that push limits way more than maybe what Wacken is normally used to, you know. I think that would be really cool to kind of freak people out and play with, you know, expectations and just something more experimental. That's usually what I go for when I go to a festival. Like I like it when it's not the normal bands that I play everywhere. Of course, that's because we go to festivals every weekend in the summer. I see too much stuff, but
I think most of the time you're literally in and out. It's like sort of car in and
I wish I could stay longer most times just to see more bands and just hang out. But no, I'm like a psychedelic, surreal, strange stage at Wacken. That would be awesome.
Excellent.
I would love it.
Excellent. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I'm very much looking forward to this evening and seeing the show and seeing, as I said, the headline show. So I think really see what that's like. And nice to meet you.
Cool. Awesome.
And that's basically us. And so, as usual, subscribe. Do all the clicky stuff. Join us, and we'll have more interviews soon. You're watching Rockflesh.